Awesome. Cool. I'm super excited to be with you today, Om. It's been a while. I wanted to do this interview actually. We got a chance to meet last year, and I've been really impressed. By what you've achieved so far in so many different aspects, but overall with the same purpose, always driving Thailand and Southeast Asia to be clean in terms of their energy and improving the climate. So welcome home to Atlas show, and I'm super excited. Why don't we start by sharing a little bit of your background, where you come from, who are you, Om?
Okay, sure. Thank you, John, and sawadee krap to everyone. My name is Om Kaosa-ard, and if you are Thai or you understand Thai, my family name Kaosa-ard means white and clean. So maybe that's like to begin with. I'm very well established and created the bonding with the Cleantech since I was born into this family. So right now I'm the head of venture capital and investments at INNOPOWER. So at INNOPOWER, we want to seed innovation through like future energies, climate technologies to recreate an ecosystem for sustainable world and of course sustainable economy for everyone. So about myself, maybe for young generations or like the Gen Z, I might be too old, so I'm gonna take everyone back maybe to around 1980s, around like the Top Gun's Maverick age. So you might get a better idea about like where I came from, where my passion is,
Please
and
do.
where I'm heading to at the end of this conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. So I grew up in Chiang Mai. So it's a town up in the north of Thailand. So where I live close by to nature. My house was just right next to a small creek that in some good day at night, we could see fireflies flying outside of our windows in the evening. My dad was a researcher and also a forester whose work was about finding the way to do a plant tissue cultures. If you don't know, it's like cloning the plant for the economic plants like teak back in 1980s, 1970s. That's quite a breakthrough of innovations. So that's his research. He loved it and he loved the nature. But apart from loving and doing this research, my dad also loved to take me to everywhere he went, from high mountainous ridges in the north to deep jungle or to the mangrove forest in the south of the country. So it was a great childhood life. It's a great childhood memory. But the turning point in my life would be when I graduated and I worked at SCG. It's a conglomerate in Thailand. So I got the scholarship from SCG to study MBA and finance at Wharton, a business school in Philadelphia. That was in 2009 to 2011. There I met so many great people who one day, I did not imagine back in that time that one day those people would bring me to venture capital and the startup community at all. So for me, it's not a straight line from the day I graduated from Wharton to become a venture capitalist. It's been a lot of journey. I've been working through many companies like SCG back then. The sponsor for my scholarship. I also moved around a little bit to PTT, which is another conglomerate group in Thailand, or even a real estate giant in Thailand like Pruksa Real Estate. I used to work for Pruksa for quite a while. So I had taken many roles in various industries, from manufacturing, logistics, distributions, constructions, real estate, and then end up in petrochemicals and energies. So from this experience, I think it boils down to me today. So it's the day that I decide to move away from a corporate life to startup communities, and then to become the leader of a venture capital team at INNOPOWER. So I think that's how I got to here today, who I am today. And I'm happy to share about my experience and what I see. Maybe it's not right, but this is just my humble opinion with everyone at last. So thank you again, John, for the opportunity.
Thank you. And this is great. You mentioned your different events in your journey, because a lot of the people who watch us, they think, oh, investors, but they forget sometimes that behind the money, there is humans, and people humans have their own stories, and they have been through many different industries before to come to the conclusion that venture capital and investing was what they really meant to do, right? And for you, you've come across corporate, but you didn't mention you also went into startup for a moment as well, right? So you've got both this experience on the ground as well as in the venture capital.
Right.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit of why Cleantech, aside of your name. You know, okay, your dad liked the nature, but why do you think Cleantech is such an important topic for Southeast Asia and Thailand at the moment? Because I think there's many people who hear about this but don't really know what this is, and also there's not many corporates who are jumping into, but you guys are. So tell us why.
Okay. So I think to answer to these questions, you can look through it from many perspectives or the lens to answer to these questions. So for me, I think there might be three ways to see to answer to these questions. So first, from the international and social pressures perspective, I think it's inevitable for a country like Thailand and businesses within this country to escape the trend. The global commitments to reduce the carbon emission and to reduce the world temperatures will be played out in the form of like the non-tariff barrier to the trade. And if you don't comply, then you cannot play in this landscape. So if you're not clean, you cannot play. So I think that's very important for corporates or businesses that they're going to be pressures in the global scale. So that's like one way to see it or to answer it. The second way to see it is from more of the environmental perspective or the social responsibilities. So let's be clear that I think this planet has reached its limits in where there's no way for the corporates or businesses to continue their business without the future customers. If they're not around in the next 30 years, we don't have the world for the new generations of customers to live. Then without the healthy planet means there's no living things, there's no customers, there are no healthy customers. So what's the point of having the business without the customers? So I think that is more of the environmental aspect of like how you just see this issue relevant to your business. And I think for the third way to answer to this, and I think it's tailor-made to answer to all the Thai corporates and Thai entrepreneurs. I think it's in the lens of opportunistic perspective. So if you think about Thailand is located where the fundamental resources for people and living organisms would want are abundant, like the food, the sunshine, and everything. So it means that in the worst case scenario of all everything falling apart because of the climate change and the global warming, Thailand might be among the last man standing with the abundance of food productions and the geographical terrain that you can create renewable energies like solar or hydropower when all other fossil fuels are no longer the option. So we will be among the last man standing from the locations of where we are right now. So this could be an opportunity for Thai entrepreneurs and corporate to step up and become the providers to the world. But however, this is just an opportunity. It means if you're not ready, if you don't have the vision to prepare right now, when the time comes or when the opportunity comes, you will not be there or not be able to capture it. So I think this is three things. I think that why Thai corporates or conglomerates or even entrepreneurs should care about climate change, the climate tech, and the clean tech. I think that's how I see it. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I love it. I love it, and I'm glad to hear that. And this is really resonating with my book, The Adaptive Economy. So yeah, I think we're on the same page. It is really an opportunity for people who prepare right now to be part of the biggest companies next 20 years. And these companies will be at all resilient to climate change because that's the only one that's going to survive, right? The first layer going to be going away with the carbon taxes for the companies who are not adapting. And the second layer will be from temperature increase, loss of customers, sea rise, etc. Right? So absolutely, everything is about those two layers of adaptation. That's really the next 20 years. And I'm super excited and reassured to see that people in corporate like you are talking this way, and I think it's great to hear what the corporate are thinking about. So us who are not in the corporate, we can also know what's the future. So that's very interesting. And okay, so we noticed this big wave coming, this big tsunami. Okay, so the tsunami is sea rises, of course, but temperature increases, maybe even climate migrants, right? And also the price, the tsunami is this big wave of surge of price of oil, right? So you've got the experience with PTT, right? They also see that coming. So how do corporates act now to adapt? What do they do exactly? Do they invest everything in renewable energy to provide renewable to consumers, or what's the next big thing that corporates you've seen are going to do in that climate tech space?
Okay. Yeah, so you mentioned PTT, but I think we'll give another example of SCG also. So okay. I think because I've been working for so long with SCG, so I think that there would be good examples for you too. So I'll start with SCG first, and then I'll move to PTT. So I think at SCG, I left SCG for 3 or 4 years, but as I recall, the sustainability and the use of the energy more efficiently is the core of the operations at corporate like SCG. So my time with SCG, I took many roles, but the roles or the projects that I always enjoy to work or have like the passion to work will be in the energy or energy conservation projects. So there are so many perspectives that we could approach the energy problems, especially if you are corporates with like the assets, with the process and the manufacturing plants. For example, at SCG, they have a cement plants. They recycle the waste heat to use in the process to reduce the consumptions of the coal in the process. So that is how the corporate move. That I think that will be energy conservation 1.0. That's like how our engineers in the plant could do it. And then energy conservation 2.0 might come in like looking for the alternative fuel or technologies. Like back then, 10 years ago, we might talk about biomass and gasification technologies or renewable energies like the solar or the floating solar or the solar farm. So I think that's energy conservation 2.0. And I think right now, and I'm not sure it should be 3.0 or 4.0, but corporates, big corporates, moving toward more of innovations in carbon captures, hydrogen technologies, or how to store the carbon from the process of emissions through investments in startups or entrepreneurs with some breakthrough technologies. So I think that's like how big corporate are doing SCG or at PTT. I think it's the same thing. So when I worked with PTT back then, I was working with one of the subsidiary of PTT called IRPC. So IRPC is doing in the same thing, petrochemicals and petroleum business. I was in charge of setting up the corporate venture capital for IRPC. It's still work in process even now. There, I can sense that the corporate realized that with the conventional way of doing the business, the conventional way of approving projects in large corporates will not catch up with the startup world or the startup communities. Yeah. I think most of the startup CEO founders will get bored at the second meetings with corporate. So corporates need to adapt and create a more agile team to work and invest in the founders with real tangible technology. And I think that's like how the corporate evolved in terms of energy conservation. So I think they started with energy conservation, and now it becomes like about the climate change, tackle the climate change. Right. I think that's like the way I see it from big corporates. And even now at INNOPOWER, which is subsidiaries, or we have like the shareholders like EGAT, the electricity state of Thailand. We also try to do the same thing. It's like finding the right unicorn in climate tech or energy tech.
Tell us a little bit more about this. So what is your role in EGAT, and what are you looking to build right now? What is EGAT purpose for this year into that space?
Okay, sure, John. Okay, so I think to look at INNOPOWER, maybe we need to take one step back and do not see INNOPOWER as EGAT. So INNOPOWER is another private entity, but we have a deep root in energy business through the shareholders, namely EGAT and EGCO and Ratch, which EGAT is the state-owned electricity business. Okay. And the other two are the independent power producers listed in the stock market. So these are the three shareholders that provide the root of INNOPOWER from energy business. And that's why we derive the name INNOPOWER, which is like innovations and power.
Okay.
So yeah, let's talk about INNOPOWER. So at INNOPOWER, we aim to achieve three things. First, seeding innovation through venture capital activity, which is like what I'm doing. We also have like the venture building team to create the ecosystem for future energies. And we also have the team that make partnerships with large corporates, other large corporates or the government institutions to invest in a more larger scale infrastructure project. So I think the way we see the future of energies or the climate tech, we might see it through a few ecosystem, like the EV or the e-mobility ecosystem, which in one ecosystem you have like the EV, I mean the cars, the vehicle itself, the battery, the charging station, the applications. So that's one ecosystem. But we still have like other ecosystem that INNOPOWER also looking at. For example, the zero carbon energy technologies. That's another set of ecosystem from the green hydrogens or the green power, the fuel cell technologies, how we're going to store the power, how we're going to distribute it. So that's another set of the ecosystem. And then we also look at the carbon captures ecosystem. So like how we can do it. The traditional way is to plant more trees or like capture the carbon through the forest, or we can use the technologies to store and keep it somewhere safe underground. So that's another way or another ecosystem we're looking at. The rest might be more of digital enable, like the exchange platform for carbon credits or the renewable energy certificate. So I think this is the new way of people in energy sectors trying to move the business forward. Yeah.
Right.
So I think that, and that's also what INNOPOWER is trying to do. Is try to spot on like the really cool entrepreneurs, startups, or fund managers that we can work with, and then go hand in hand to solve the problem, because it's a big problem that we might need a lot of people to come and help to solve.
Yeah, as you mentioned, right? It's about building these ecosystems, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these ecosystems are defining our daily life probably 20 years from now, but today they're non-existent.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you need some adventurers, entrepreneurs, corporates, and fund managers to really build this from scratch, right? So that's why I mean you and I are very excited when we talk together. We get so excited about seeing that future becoming in shape, and so far we've done that with Atlas through the past 9 investments we've made, and you're doing that now with INNOPOWER. So tell us a little bit about those investments that you guys are looking to make. I know there is some that you can't mention, but maybe just in terms of right now, anything interesting, anything sexy that you've seen in the space.
Okay, sure. I can share with you maybe in the general concept, not the specific name.
Yeah.
But I think there are the short-term, medium-term, and long-term technologies that we're looking at, and we are doing like 3 things at the same time. So for the short-term strategies, so we might want to invest with maybe hopefully local startups in energy management, because I think if we cannot reduce or cut anything, maybe we can manage things first. So I think energy management is like something we can do, we can invest, and I think a lot of startups try to solve these questions. So I think that's one thing that like the venture capitals or investors could go out and find like which will suit with your investment thesis or not. Right. So I think this is the short term. The more longer term is the ecosystem of e-mobility, from like charging stations, how to make it easier to locate, to identify, or to reduce the charging time of your EV. I think that's the medium term of the strategy and the startup. So we also look at many opportunities or entrepreneurs who try to explore this. But what really excites me would be the longer term technologies. Okay. So for me, it's about green hydrogens, like how you're going to create hydrogens from renewable energies, even nuclear fusion. So how you're going to create a massive, huge amount of energy without the radioactive waste, with something that you can control the reactions, not something that might involve in something that get out of your hands and you cannot control it, like what happened before. Yeah. So I think this something really excites me. It's the long-term strategy, because for what we see right now in the short term or the medium term, I think a lot of people are doing it already, and some is doing very well. So what we try to do is to find the next, 10 to 20 years that we need to rely on, maybe from the day we decouple from fossil fuels to hydrogens, renewables, or nuclear fusion. I think there's still time, but we need to be serious from now. Yeah.
Amazing. And I agree with you. There is those short-term, mid-term, and long-term. Of course, the longer-term are the most exciting ones. Nuclear fusion specifically, but nuclear in general is still a great technology if you compare that to fossil fuels, of course, right? And hydrogens, there's a lot of talk in this. So of course, with my French accent, that reminds me, our French president have actually put that as the key agenda for French innovation, green hydrogen by 2030. So I hope we can connect the dots between France and Thailand on that, because there's great innovations happening, and great support from French venture capitals as well on that side. So okay, so now we've got a great understanding. We got to know you, Om. We got to know what's your background. We got to know what is INNOPOWER. We got to know where INNOPOWER is looking. And as of next, what is it that you need help to build, right? Because there's a lot of a lot of people who are gonna watch this video, and they need to know, where do you need help, right? Are you guys looking for startups? Sure. Are you guys looking to recruit? What's the ask?
Okay. So I think I will start by sharing about what I think about the situations of today's in the world. So I personally believe that we have all the technology available today to reverse this. I would name it ecological time bomb. We can reverse it. It's true that we might be right at the age of our civilizations if we continue to consume or produce the carbon the way or the rate we're doing today. But again, we have been there have been several wake up calls, and actually many young generations like the Gen Zs and the people answer to the call already. So if we just change the way you think, the way you live, the way you work, and the way you treat the community, the societies, with the goal to change things around, I think we will succeed with the mindsets, with the technology. We have all the scientists, engineers, policymakers who might want, or they are doing their parts. But I think what we really need from everyone is to show that you are serious about coping, approaching this the climate change. So if I gonna ask or I need help, I think is that for everyone, each and everyone, the business owners, entrepreneurs, investors, VCs, that if you think this is the wake up call is clear enough, and you think this is the right thing to do, the right business to be in, then just show that you're serious. If you're an investor, put more money in. If you are entrepreneurs, work your ass off to show that there's some solution to it. If you are the young generations, the kids, you just come out and say that we will not tolerate the way we live in this world, and just pursue and do whatever you do best, and bear in mind of how you can change or reverse this time bomb. I think that's what I'm gonna ask. But to be more business specific, maybe if you are startups or venture capitals or the fund managers, we can work together, because you know what I want, and if it's the same thing that you want, then maybe we can work together. Yes. So I think that's what I'm gonna ask, John. I'm not sure.
That's amazing.
Too emotional or not?
That's amazing, and this is, I would like to add one more for the citizens, anybody really who can vote. Why not voting for people with an agenda about clean energy transition, right? And this can be in your country, but it can be in your company too, right? Voting happens also in the private sector. So yeah, that's an amazing ask. I think this is really great, and honestly, you give me a lot of hope. Every time I speak with you, I get a lot of energy